Want me to do a big squeeze? Show the camera. Want me to do a big squeeze?
Yeah, the best, Daddy.
Aww.
We're friends.
Yes, we sure are.
We're
The bestest.
staying.
We're staying? We're staying, friends? All right, good. I'm going to put some snack balls together. Well, I guess I could pull up the recipe for what I'm gonna put in there. I'm also going to prep stuff for buffalo cauliflower pasta. So it's a vegan, gluten-free dish. We'll use gluten-free pasta, basically cauliflower, pasta, and buffalo sauce, which may sound kind of weird, but it's actually quite good. And some other things like nutritional yeast. Yeah, cashew cheese, like cashews, nutritional yeast. So it has that like creamy mac and cheesy. Pour it in.
Okay. Like that.
We need 2 cups, so 1 more. Set it down. Whoa.
A little bit for me.
I know you love dates, girl.
I want
Okay,
it.
we want half a dozen, also known as 6.
I want just one.
You want just 1. I'll put it in your mouth because it's very sticky. That way you don't have to wash your hands because I know that's not your favorite activity. All right, Ives, so now we're gonna go put this in the blender as well. Okay, friends, didn't get the whole rolling process on camera there, but this is the end product.
Are you gonna eat the cottage cheese I gave you?
I just want to eat the rice.
Huh? Hello, welcome back to the channel. I just inhaled my food because that's how meals go for me, because I'm stressed that this one's gonna need me, or that one, or that one, quite honestly.
I'm not needy.
No, she just gets in the way. Yes, we hear you. So this is the first weekend after Benjamin went back to work. So it's also Easter weekend, which none of us really realized was Easter until like earlier this week. So we don't have a ton going on. I don't think we're doing much today. I think we're gonna see some family and stuff tomorrow. But family! I'm gonna try to film today. This is why I don't film very much. It was crazy with 1, it's chaos with 2. This one's actually on her own for the first time. Loves being helped.
There's my smile.
What?
Bye.
Bye. Hello, it's Monday. We'll see if I can get anything done. I just put Ivy down in her crib. Poppy's downstairs. You might be able to hear her. She's currently happy. We'll see how long that goes for. But I'm trying to make this buffalo cauliflower pasta for Ben. I mean, for me too, but mostly for Ben. So I need to get that going again. I made this like vegan cheese sauce. Anyway, so I made the vegan buffalo cheese sauce and the cauliflower and the pasta, and now I just have to like put it together. So it's basically done, which is great. I am tired this morning. Ivy was having some stomach issues, and it was just like so sad to watch your baby in pain. Thankfully she's feeling much better. Poppy is just always clingy, which is so interesting. Like, I like that she needs mama all the time, but then at the same time sometimes I just want to put her down, you know, which I guess I currently have put her down, so that's good. Yeah, I think I'm just feeling a little bit frazzled. I also think I'm gonna make myself another coffee, but I need to eat food first. I need to drink some water. I've been really doing poorly at my only drinking 1 coffee a day thing. To be fair, if I want to spend my calories on 2 coffees a day, then that's up to me, you know? But then when I'm hungry, because I had 2 high-calorie coffees, I'm gonna make myself another coffee today. I just put some Element in my water to hopefully help get me some electrolytes. But yeah, in this vlog, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about like my birth story. I don't think I'm gonna do a whole sit down video on it outside of this, just because I don't think it really needs one. I did a birth vlog if you want to see it, and I kind of talked about my birth in it, but I thought it would be interesting to tell you guys about. So either when I'm eating or when I'm sitting with Poppy putting her down, I'll sit down with you guys and tell you about that. So if you're interested, I'll put the time up on the screen here and you can watch that. I can link this recipe below. I make more pasta than it calls for, and I double the sauce because I like saucier things, but you can do whatever you want. Okay, I don't know if you can tell by my energy, but I'm like all over the place, so I'm gonna take a break, eat, and I'll catch up with you in just a second. Okay, what perfect timing to do this birth story update than the last week that my baby's a newborn. She's 11 weeks. There goes the remote control. She's 11 weeks today. I feel like some people say that they're only newborns until 8 weeks. I say 12, and don't fight me on that. I say 12. So she is 11 weeks today. She actually just ate and fell back asleep, even though she's supposed to be awake, but that's fine. Birth story. I'll link my birth vlog if you want to watch that. If you guys didn't know, I'm not going to go into the whole story of it, but my birth with my first daughter, with Ivy, was traumatic for me. Short story long story short. I had an OB treat me very poorly in the beginning of my induction. I was like very overdue, really like crazy nurse that was just like full of anxious energy. I was like traumatized by what they did in my induction, and then I ended up, because of that, like the shock of that or the pain of that or something, it set my body into consistent contractions where I was having contractions constantly. I didn't get a break. My doula was trying to help me. Fast forward to the morning, and I ended up having to go in for an unexpected C-section. It wasn't an emergency at the point that they did it, but it was unexpected. So it just was like, I was not prepared for that to even be an option. Some traumatic stuff happened after that with Ivy. Everything ended up being fine. Like, she was healthy, I was healthy, but it really messed with me mentally, well, and physically, but mentally I had a ton of anxiety postpartum. I had my postpartum OCD was triggered, postpartum depression, all that kind of stuff, and I dealt with a lot of stuff. If you guys have been watching my channel since I had Ivy, you know, like, ended up going on anxiety medication, going through therapy for OCD, like, just, it was just a lot. So going into this birth, I was fairly nervous to be pregnant again, to go through pregnancy, which is hard, to also go through birth again. We did decide with my OB that I ended up getting toward the end of my pregnancy in 3rd trimester that I was going to do a C-section. I also had to get 3 cysts removed at the time of my C-section. But this birth was crazy. So the night before the birth, I decided that it would be intelligent to go and read Google reviews. Don't do that, okay? I mean, most hospitals, take it with a grain of salt. They didn't have great reviews. Most of them don't. A few of the good reviews talked about this one particular nurse. I always want to call Sophie, but her name's Sonia. I just remember reading about her and everybody saying, like, the few like good reviews that actually left a review, or like 2 of them talked about this Sonia girl. So the next day we go in for my C-section. We had to be there around 10 a.m. We get there, and the woman that's checking me in, I noticed that her name tag says Sonia, and she's super nice, and I'm like, oh, this must be the nurse that, you know, everybody was talking about in their reviews. So we go sit down, wait for somebody to bring us in the back, and it's Sonia, and she brings us to our room, and she said that she's gonna be our nurse. So that felt serendipitous in the sense that I was like, you know, it was like the one nurse that was specifically highlighted in the reviews as being like a great nurse. And my nurse in my last birth was a good person. She just had a personality that was very difficult. She didn't really stand up for me when I needed her to the OB. She was like anxious energy, just like very high strung. We get in the room, I'm feeling kind of like dissociated. I was very nervous, and Sonia was being like so kind and asking me questions and getting another nurse to do my IV and all of this stuff. And I told her that I had had a traumatic birth last time. I told her about it, and I just told her that I wanted to have a peaceful birth this time. And she just was like very thoughtful, very considerate, very kind. She was just like a calming energy. She was super nice, like super nice and bubbly, but she was still chill and like level-headed. I told her that I was a little bit nervous about getting the cysts removed because I didn't want to have any additional bleeding. So she talked to the doctor about it. I had a couple of requests for my birth that she like made sure happened, like playing music while I was sitting there or laying there, all that kind of stuff. After about an hour of being there, I kind of came out of it and started feeling a little bit more myself and was like talking with her more and that kind of stuff. I actually ended up having contractions while I was waiting for my scheduled C-section. Like we were watching them on the thing and I was feeling them. So it's just funny that my body started going into a type of labor on the same day I was getting a scheduled C-section. Right before the surgery, the doctor came in and talked to me through the cyst removal and why it was important to do it then, and how careful she was when she was in there to make sure that everything was cleaned up and removed, and this way I wouldn't have to get a second surgery at some point, and that she was like very delicate and, you know, just that it was not something to worry about, and she explained the process to me. So that made me feel really comfortable. Then they took me back to the C-section. If you don't know, with a scheduled C-section, you get like a spinal. I had had an epidural with my previous birth, so they like put the stuff in through the epidural, but I had to have a spinal this time. So I actually walked to the C-section room, the OR, and then Ben couldn't come with me though. So it was just like, there was like a teaching nurse in there and another nurse that were there for her, like the NICU team. There was people there to help my OB, there was an anesthesiologist, there was my nurse, and I think like another nurse, I don't know. There was probably like 6 to 8 people in there. So when they went to do my spinal, this was just like a really cool moment for me. I'm not like a touchy-feely type of girl. I don't have a ton of female friends, like, or I should say I don't have a ton of friends, like anything like that. So I just haven't had like a secure, special relationship with women very often in my life. I've had a couple of friendships, but not a ton that have like stayed with me. And yeah, so it was just like a special moment in the sense that like I was leaning into my doctor. She was rubbing the top of my back and my neck, and then my nurse grabbed my hand, and I was nervous and it kind of hurt, so I was like squeezing it, and she was just like rubbing my hand. So I had these 2 women just like holding me during a time where I felt very vulnerable and scared, and it was just like such a comforting moment compared to my nurse and my OB with my other birth. And it was just so healing for me to have that, not only connection with other women, but like these women that were, you know, protecting my life and my baby's life. So from there, laid me down on the table. I laid down wrong. Apparently the anesthesiologist was this like weird guy, and he was like, no, not like that. And I was like, dude, I can barely feel things. So I'm laying down how I lay down. So it was fine, but I just remember thinking that was kind of funny. Then Ben eventually came in. They like started doing stuff, testing to make sure I couldn't feel anything, all that stuff. I started getting kind of nauseous. The anesthesiologist was super good at his job and super nice, and he he was like listening to me talk to Ben about being really anxious and feeling kind of nauseous. So he was like, you know, fixing what he was giving me so that I would feel a little bit better, and like talking to me about it and why I was feeling these things, all that. So then they started the surgery. I couldn't feel anything. The only thing is I was like so dissociated during Ivy's birth that I don't remember it, whereas I do kind of with her. And you definitely like move. They're like pulling you around to get the baby out. She came out, they dropped the thing. I have a picture of her coming out that I can maybe put on the screen. I don't know if YouTube will flag that or not. They held her up. Ben called out that it was a girl because we didn't know if she was a girl or not, girl or boy coming out. And they took her right over next to me, kind of like I couldn't. Did they bring her to me first? Yes, they wiped her off and like brought her to me first. Then they brought her over there. And it was like very close to me, not far at all. So Ben went over, cut her. Actually, they didn't bring her over to me. Whatever. Anyway, so he cut her, the rest of her umbilical cord, slightly cleaned her. Not really, just like her nose and stuff like that. They kept all the stuff on her. And then they brought her over to me like very quickly. Whereas with Ivy, they took her to like a back room so I could hear her screaming and crying far away, and she was nowhere near me, and nobody told me that she was a girl. Nobody told me what was going on. I didn't know if she was okay, anything like that. This was just a much faster thing. They told me everything that they were doing. I got to see her right away when she came out, all of that stuff. Then they started working on getting my cysts out. After, you know, hanging out with her and Ben for a couple minutes, they had Ben leave with her, which I was okay with. They continued taking the cysts out. There were 2 that they had to take out on my ovaries, and 1 was in my fallopian tube, I believe. They took those out. They actually showed them to me because she asked if I wanted to see it, and I was like, sure. Those ended up being benign. There was no issues with them, but they still needed to take them out so they wouldn't cause any damage or anything like that. During this whole time, my nurse was checking in on me, the anesthesiologist, my doctor was talking to me. Like, I just felt not alone. And while it didn't feel great to be in there, it just was such a different dynamic than my birth with Ivy, where I just felt not even human. Like, I didn't feel important to them at all. Like, I just felt like another number that they were trying to get through before they could go to lunch, which they were talking about. Whereas my doctor was just like, I don't know, it just was completely different. My doctor and my nurse, like, I don't think they'll ever know how healing it was for me to have an experience with those 2 women in particular. So then after that, they took us back to the room that we had been in, like a labor and delivery room, basically. My nurse brought me back, and I got to be with Poppy the whole time. If I have pictures, I'll pop them up here. It was just so different. It was so chill. My doctor did at one point. She was just checking to make sure I was okay, like if I had any questions, just being so kind to both Ben and I. And then she took us downstairs a couple hours later, maybe like 2 hours later, to the like recovery room, so she would no longer be my nurse. For me, sometimes it's really hard to be assertive, and it's also really hard to like show emotion. Like, I have a hard time asking people for touch or for things like that because childhood issues, I don't know. She was like helping get the other nurses up to speed and all that stuff. I like called her over and asked if I could give her a hug, and I just like told her how much it meant to me that she was just like so there for me, and like such, I don't know, she was just like an angel and a nurse. I've heard of other people having wonderful birth experiences with nurses and doctors, and I got to have that, and that was very much needed after having a traumatic birth with my first. So it was just entirely different. My nurses in recovery were good. Recovery was a little bit harder because, you know, the next day you're kind of out of the like swoon stage and like, oh, I just had major surgery and everything hurts type of thing, and I'm not sleeping and things like that. So it was hard, but my nurses were great. We brought them some donuts, so everybody loved us. They came and checked on us all the time. It was just like a great experience. I ended up being able to go home right on time. I didn't have any issues with anything. Poppy was completely healthy. It was just like a completely different experience. My healing, my postpartum journey, which I could do a video on if you guys are interested, was completely different, and I'm so grateful for it. And I still don't think that I want to go through another pregnancy or birth again, but I just don't think that I want to with my body, even though I would love to have at least one more baby. But I just don't think I want to go through another year with pregnancy, birth, postpartum again. But so I'm just grateful that like this experience was just such a healing experience in so many ways. I trusted myself. I went into it and I was like, I'm going to have a peaceful birth. I'm going to advocate for myself, what to do. I know what not to do. I know how to, you know, Ben was ready to advocate for me if he needed to. We brought our own food so that we would feel a little bit better in postpartum healing, because I have an egg allergy and I don't eat gluten, things like that. Like Ivy got to meet Poppy, all that stuff. I was proud of myself for how I prepared and was ready to advocate for myself, but I was also open to a healing experience. I wasn't expecting to have another bad experience. And then I'm just grateful that I had the nurse that I had. I'm grateful that I went with my gut and changed my doctor and went to this small practice that sometimes meant that I waited a really long time for my appointment. It was totally worth it. That was how the birth went. Apparently, Poppy wanted to go right back to sleep, so she must be tired. Gotta get Ivy up in a little bit from her nap. Thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed hearing about my birth story. And I will see you guys in the next video.
Bye. Bye.